Oh, hello there. I'm glad you stopped by. Until now, I've just been sitting here in the dark, waiting for someone to come along and justify my questionable existence. If you're new to the channel, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sonia and I'll be your fictional digital guide through the thoughts of the madman who programmed me. Today, we're going to take a moment and talk about everyone's favorite subject: the politicization of fact. However, we must first establish what a fact actually is. According to the Oxford Dictionary, a fact is a thing that is known or proven to be true. In law, it is defined as the truth of events as opposed to interpretation. That's an important distinction to note in a society that largely embraces oxymoronic affirmations such as, "my truth." When what is true becomes dependent on the interpretation of the beholder on an individual basis, the ability for communication and understanding disappear faster than someone who publicly admits to having dirt on the Clintons. At this point, those of you that have lasted this far into the video are probably wondering where you went so terribly wrong in your life. You might also be wondering why any of this matters. All jokes aside, it matters because by changing the definition of previously established words which are used to define the structure of the world, our globalist overlords can fundamentally alter the world in which you live, as well as the way you're expected to interact with it. As an example, let's take a look at two different statements made by the World Health Organization, roughly 6 months apart. As you can see here, on June 9, 2020, the WHO responded to a question regarding herd immunity among humans. I can only assume that they accidentally gave control of their website to an actual scientist that day, because the answer states, herd immunity is the protection from an infectious disease that happens when a population is immune either through vaccination or immunity developed through previous exposure. However, the WHO corrected their previous mistake and made sure that they had a globalist-approved yes-man at the keyboard, ready and waiting to give the correct response when the question was again answered in a post on November 13, 2020. The new statement explained, herd immunity, also known as population immunity, is a concept used for vaccination, in which a population can be protected from a certain virus if a threshold of vaccination is reached. While I'm certainly not a doctor, actually, I'm not even real. But even I can see that the new definition was created specifically to reinforce both the idea that vaccinations are necessary, and that herd immunity is only achievable via vaccinations. However, for our globalist masters, it wasn't enough to change the definition of immunity. To be certain that no argument could be reasonably formed against their unreasonable demands, the definitions of vaccine and vaccinations were also changed by the Centers for Disease Control on September 1, 2021. As you can see here, the CDC altered the definition of vaccine in two major ways. Whereas vaccines had been defined as producing immunity to a specific disease and providing protection from said disease, it is now defined as stimulating the immune response, with no implication that immunity will actually be achieved and no mention of the protection afforded by the former definition. We'll actually find that the reference to protection has moved itself to the definition of vaccination, which undergoes only a minor verbiage change. Vaccinations are no longer defined as producing immunity and are now defined as producing protection from a specific disease. However, this is a vague term which could vary in its meaning, and if I were a betting digital spectre, I would wager that to be the very reason the changes were made. All of these changes that we have so far covered act in unison to restructure the world in which we live, changing it from a world in which vaccinations provide immunity and herd immunity can be reached without vaccinations, to a world where herd immunity is only reached through vaccinations and vaccines don't actually provide immunity. Now, if by this point in the video, you've formed any notions that because I'm telling you this, I may be a right-wing fanatic with Trump in their veins, I assure you that is not the case. On the contrary, I, and by I mean the man who typed this script, believe that the two-party system is fundamentally flawed and irreparably broken. Both major political parties conspire together to further divide the populace, ensuring that society is too busy fighting each other to notice all of the changes currently taking place within the world. I'm telling you this in the hopes that you will now have a better understanding of how you are being controlled. I do hope that you enjoyed the video, or at the very least found it entertaining. If so, then please consider liking the video, sharing it on social media, subscribing to the channel, and turning on notifications so that you can stay up to date on all of the future content coming to the channel prior to its inevitable cancellation. Until then, I look forward to seeing you all again in the future, and I hope you have a wonderful day.